public comment. We have our blue sheet, and we have one signed up, Jim Nowacki from Gary, Indiana, who would like to speak about INDOT.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the Commission. I brought my own timer today.
Excellent.
Now, I'm sure many of the commissioners last month watched our president. He gave our State of the Union address, and one of his emphases in his address was replacing America's crumbling infrastructure. Very serious, not only in our community but all over the country. And I don't know if he anticipated that part of our nation's crumbling infrastructure is only 2 months old. Once again, I'm bringing to the Commission's attention the serious problems we've had with Reith Riley's projects in our community. For several years, I've complained about the 1220 project and the inadequacies in that. We've noticed that we've talked about the part of the flooding that was created by the Reith Riley company. They had let a lot of their debris fall into drains that are not easily cleaned. Now, once the state signed off on that project, contractors no longer responsible for that. Instead, it's the responsibility of the taxpayers of our state. And to this date, 3 years later, flooding is unabated. We've had some assurances from INDOT and from our city administration that it'll be addressed. But as of today, I got on the bus today and there was a lake in front of on Fifth Avenue. And the reason I mentioned that project, because while the Reith Riley company skated on their responsibilities to deliver a serviceable project, the state took no action to hold them accountable. We see an even more serious project on Broadway. The brand new drains that it installed, at probably great expense, brand new, flooded to the top, water's not going anywhere. Now I know that they say they're going to be back later to fix it, but it seems that we're paying for a brand new road. We're not paying for a broken down road that's patched up and put together with bubble gum and string. It also mentioned that the surface of the road, already granulating, deteriorating, cracking. It's only 2 months old. So I'm going to ask that the Commission make sure that we hold INDOT responsible, to hold the contractor responsible, to deliver us a fine product. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for bringing your own timer. Next on the agenda is Attorney Dave Hollenbeck for a new appointment.
Mr. Chairman, we've received a certificate of appointment that is in proper form from the town of Ogden Dunes, whereby Carolyn Saxton is appointed to our commission.
Wonderful. Excellent. Thank you and welcome. Perfect timing, Carolyn.
I time my inputs here.
And we'll even get you a name.
Okay.
Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the January 18th full commission meeting, pages 1 through 4. You received them electronically, and I would entertain a motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. Next is the report of the Executive Director, Todd Benner.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. First of all, before I have a few things to do that are on the agenda, I just want to thank the city of Portage. This really was, obviously, had no idea, and our condolences, of course, to Parkland, Florida, for the shooting that took place there. The presence of the police officer that you may have noticed coming in was not directly because of that. But if you recall, this was an issue that was expressed by several commissioners being concerned, given that we're all gathered in one place at one time. And so I contacted the city of Portage a couple weeks ago, and just thankful for them to have a police officer presence here. And so I don't want you to be alarmed if you saw the police officer there. They're clearly here for your just protection on a regular basis. So they will be here going forward for commission meetings. So thank you to the city of Portage for providing that. I want to jump right into what's listed there on the agenda. We're very grateful to have someone here that has had a big impact on the region. I think most of you know the Norm Tuffer Award was established in 2011 to honor NERC's very first executive director. And just reading directly from the resolution that established that award, the award is given from time to time as appropriate for exceptional dedication and service to NERC for those who emulate the best characteristics of Norman E. Tuffer. And the resolution goes into some detail about what that is. There's a plaque in our lobby where you can see the past recipients of this award since 2011. We did not give one last year, but we are very pleased, particularly in regards to having just celebrated our 50th anniversary as an organization, to give the award this year from the selection committee that included myself and Jeff Benson and Dave Schaefer, to someone who actually knew and worked with Norm Tuffer. And my predecessor, John Swanson, was very enthusiastic about this recipient's nomination. Let me just read a few of the accomplishments that can summarize what she brought to the region for this, that are worthy of this award. She served as executive director of the Lake Michigan Marina Development Commission, which was responsible for planning and coordinating the development of a series of new marinas along the region's shoreline. Served as executive director of the Lake Michigan Shoreline Development Commission, which explored opportunities for strategic public investments in shoreline areas. Served as the inaugural executive director of the Northwest Indiana Quality of Life Council, which has subsequently evolved into the One Region Initiative. She advocated effectively for safety and modernization improvements to the Borman Expressway in Lake County, and provided leadership to NERC's environmental planning programs. And the staff here from December of 1983 to January of 2000. An early picture is actually on that banner that celebrated our 50 years. And John Swanson, in his comments, recognizing and recommending her for this award, said, well, he did not actually have the privilege of working with Barbara, who's about to announce her in a minute. He had the occasion to witness her extraordinary work while she served as the interstate coordinator for the Northeastern Illinois, while he served as the interstate coordinator for the Northeastern Illinois Planning Commission. And John feels that she was very, very worthy. The commission agreed. Everybody that I've talked to has sung her praises from her past history here. And I've heard her very positively spoken of over my 5 years, and I'm thrilled that she's able to be here today to receive the award, which is Barbara Waxman, who is here today. Barbara.
Mitch.
Thank you for coming.
I got it. Sorry. Try it again.
So we also have a, Jeff just said we think of her every day when we drive to Gorman. We have a 50th anniversary journal, and thank you as well, that has inserted neatly in it, thanks to our graphics person, John Smith, that history which you have on your places of newspaper articles about Barbara's tenure at NERC and all that she accomplished during that time. That's embedded within this journal. There were a few of you that did work with Barbara and did overlap some. I know Dave Hollenbeck and Dave Schaefer. I'm not sure who else, and Kevin. So I've asked Barbara to say a few words, but before I do, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if there's anything anybody wants to share about who had known her.
Congratulations to you, Barbara. You're very deserving. Before I was the clerk treasurer for the town of Munster, and before I was on the Munster Town Council, I've been appointed to the Munster Board of Zoning Appeals, and I was happy to serve with Barbara on that. And Barbara and I had more fun on that day on BZA. We made it a point to visit every site that was the subject of an appeal. the day before the weekend before the meeting on Tuesday. And it was then that I respected and learned about Barbara's dedication to her assignment, and she took the job seriously and was very proficient. After I was inducted to the Munster Town Council, then I was appointed as HERC's representative, and again I got to see Barbara's performance as a high professional here at HERC. So very deserving, and I continue on up until your retirement. I wish you the best. Congratulations to you.
What I remember most about Barbara was her enthusiasm for the region, her intellect, and what I envied most, her energy. Something that I occasionally lacked during that time. But what amazed me is, as much as she worked for us here, what she did externally for us outside of the region as a representative of what we were trying to accomplish, whether it was going to Indianapolis with me and trying to get the legislature to understand the importance of the Hammond Marina and other Lake Michigan Marina Development Commission projects, or her work on the Borman that Ty alluded to. We were so fortunate to have Barbara with us, and a well-earned and deserved award. And I haven't seen her in a long time. We had a chance to talk this morning. God bless.
I'd just like to thank Barbara for her interest in the other subcommittees. The environmental committee was kind of in its fledgling state. We expanded beyond just the air quality issues that was funded by CMAQ, and we started to grow. I think we started to expand the thought process of what different things are impacting the region and try to unify. But thank you, Barbara, for all your hard work and all the extra work you did for us.
Well, again, I think it's totally appropriate, given that we just celebrated our 50th anniversary, to give the award to somebody who actually worked and as I said, knew retired. So, Barbara, if you have some comments, this is the time.
Just a few. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have to say, Jeff said, thank you for your work on the Borman. One of my very earliest projects here at Mercy was to arrive here after having had an accident on the Borman Expressway on an icy winter morning when the access ramp at Calumet Avenue, because at that time we were still at Kennedy Avenue, but the access ramp was a sheet of ice. I slid down the access road into a truck. I was fine, my car was a little dinged, the truck driver was really nice. It was not a serious thing, but it made me realize what serious problems there were on the Borman Expressway, and we convened the Borman Task Force, which was just this incredible outpouring of energy. People were ready to say, I'm so damn mad and I'm not going to take this anymore, and we had subcommittees. We were at the intersection of I-65 and Borman trying to help with the city of Gary's assistance to clean up the mess there. We were insistent on new interchanges and an expansion of the roadway. It was really a groundswell of support, and one of my first experiences with harnessing not only the political power here, but the people power to make things happen for the better. So anyway, Jeff just reminded me of that this morning. It was really a very exciting time. We developed a report. Wasn't very slick, but it stated all the problems. It listed all the people who had been involved. We went to the Indiana Department of Highways. They were not responsive. We just kept beating on them until finally things started to happen. So it was really a real good lesson for me that you can make things happen. You just have to be persistent, and I don't need to tell any of you about that. I want to just tell you a little bit about Norm Shufford. Norm was a courtly and kind, gentle man, and he fostered an atmosphere here of high standards and technical excellence, and he treated everyone with respect. He hired me in 1983 at the Mercy offices on Kennedy Avenue in Highland, the storefront offices. He took a flyer on me because I really didn't have the kind of technical and professional qualifications that most of the staff had. I'd like to think that he never regretted his decision. I quickly found Nerve City to be an environment that encouraged creativity and innovation, team problem solving. There was strong political support from commissioners, and there was a skilled and dedicated staff. These are all critical ingredients in every project that I was involved in. It is an absolute delight to be here this morning. It's deja vu. It's just fond memories of lovely people that I knew long ago. I look back on my years here with great fondness and frankly with personal pride. And I hope that I made a meaningful contribution to the betterment of this region. I'm ecstatic about this award. I'm truly delighted, and I'm very grateful for the lovely comments this morning and the beautiful booklet, the award, and just for your recognizing me after all these years. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Barbara. And now we have an award of a different sort, which is our Perfect Attendance Award that we have done, I think fairly recently this started. As you know, if you are not on the executive board, you really don't have a technical obligation to be at every meeting. There's 4 meetings required by statute per year. It meets quarterly as a full commission. But as you also know, that far more than the members of the executive board often come on a regular basis. And so there should be no shame if you didn't receive one of these awards if you're not on the executive board. But it's a wonderful thing to acknowledge those that have had the commitment and dedication to be here every single meeting. And so we have 4 recipients of that this year, and I will just pass them out very quickly. First of all, Mr. Jim Time. George Topol. Mr. Justin Keogh. And Mr. Jeff Benson. What's that? Yeah. For the next time on the agenda, and then I will wrap up my comments. We are just freshly back from the National Association of Regional Councils and their Conference of Regions in D.C. It was a very auspicious time to be in Washington, D.C. with the release of the administration's budget proposal as well as the president's infrastructure plan. And so it was a great time to be there, and although everybody's still sort of processing the ramifications of what that all means, just some initial quick thoughts about all of that. And I'll try to do this very briefly, but I just want to give you a heads up of what the proposal contains and what it means. First, the infrastructure proposal, and then a quick word about the budget proposal. First thing to say is that it's not what is proposed and what's out there. If you did get a chance to read it or read about it, it's not a replacement for the current funding mechanisms. It's, as one of the speakers from the USDOT said during the conference, its intention is to help the backlog of projects. So the proposal is for $200 billion. That's to be leveraged into $1.5 trillion. That's the intention. The way that $200 billion is broken down just very quickly is $100 billion in incentives it's meant to reward local populations for creating new sources of revenue. I'll say more of that in a minute. $50 billion, or 25% of that $200 billion, is specifically for rural areas. Another 10% of that $200 billion, or $20 billion, is for transformative projects. This includes things like autonomous vehicles, connected vehicles, things that are almost disruptive type technologies. And then another 10% for lending programs, like the transportation TIPIA grants, loans and grants to help accelerate projects, but they are loans that have to be paid back. And then the remaining 10% is spread across various programs in the toolbox. That's the $200 billion in a nutshell of how it's broken down. Just some quick assessments about that, to step down from that breakdown though, that $200 billion, the source of that funding is not actually identified. So that's of course something that has to happen. And the other issue is that that $200 billion to leverage it into $1.5 billion, trillion, excuse me, thank you. T's are important. The 1.5 trillion is basically leveraged by accessing more local funds. So the projects under that, you're used to an 80-20 split, 80% federal share, 20%. Under this proposal, it's reversed. 20% federal funds for 80% of your contributions to access those funds. Moving from that to the budget proposal, no surprise, but it zeroes out the capital investment grants, which includes the New Starts program, which are critical for the South Shore line, and also eliminates the Economic Development Administration, of which we're seeking designation. But I think the word from Washington, D.C., as we've been there, is very clear that these are the launches of conversations. Nobody sees these as being the final product. Basically, it's been said over and over again, the budget as proposed has pretty much a zero chance of, I think that's typical anyway, but a 0% chance of passing its present form. And this was confirmed in the visits that we had on the Hill. We had personal visits with Congressman Visposky, Senator Young, and Congressman Jaworski, all of which were very, very helpful. And what I think a message from those visits is that, and I was very encouraged by, is they're all extremely united in pushing forward on the South Shore line, on these capital investment grants. They're on board, part of the fund, but they're all on board and very unified. In fact, Congressman Visposky told us he could have been happier with the bipartisan cooperation and Indiana delegation in trying to move that ahead. In fact, as we told you, we were meeting with the other folks later that day, his comment was he's not sure what more everybody can do. Everybody has been so active and supportive of those projects. So that's really, really good news. We were able to convey as part of the National Association of Regional Councils platform, which is also our concern, is the need to have a stable federal partner. Again, with funds not being identified on the federal level for that money, let alone sustainable monies into the future, once the FAST Act expires in 2020. That's a critical concern, and so having a reliable, sustainable source of funding is important. And, you know, as we talked about here on occasion, Indiana was just heroic, in fact, in passing the infrastructure bill and actually addressing the issue of a state gas tax. We heard from those on the Hill that Indiana is being seen as a leader in this, thanks to their work on this. There hasn't been another, at least yet, viable method of something other than the federal gas tax increase to help pay for this. Of course, there's not a whole lot of appetite for being the first one out to try to propose an increase in gas tax. However, even while we were waiting in the waiting room of Senator Young, there was publication right on the coffee table that Justin and I were reading, and I think Doug can do it too, that right on the cover story was about Republicans' openness to start discussing increasing the gas tax. So, and you're right, exactly, thank you, Jeff, reminding me of the U.S. Chamber, who's made a proposal to increase the gas tax by 25% and then index it every year thereafter. And given that gas used to be price of gas used to be here and now it's down here, comment is made that folks would likely not actually notice that difference because they're still ahead of what it was a matter of years ago. So I think my takeaway from all that is that infrastructure is definitely a part of the conversation in Washington, D.C., which is extremely good and good timing right now. And then the other takeaway, as I said, is that how united our delegates are in trying to work for the issues of the capital investment grants and try to solve this issue overall for Indiana. So that's my quick takeaway. I don't know if Dave, Jeff, Justin, that's who else can say who all. Dave Schaefer, Jeff Benson, Justin Field. We all got back late last night, so forgive us if we're a little leery-eyed, but I don't know if there's anything else three of you want to share from your impressions of that trip.
I brought some of the literature that some of it's bent up, but I'll pass it around, and anybody that wants to see some, it was convenient for them to have arranged for President Trump to release the infrastructure bill while we were there, and it was there was a lot of discussion about that and autonomous vehicles. They asked us. they asked us if our region was planning for these, and I had to answer no. But one of the requirements for autonomous vehicles is perfect roads with perfect signage and perfect stripes and visible all the time, and I think we would all like that for even the ones that are still driving our cars. But try to figure out how to pay for all that is key. So, Dave?
We, in addition to our own visits on the Hill, we've talked to other delegates of the conference who had similar visits, and the theme that seemed to be prevalent was this great frustration on both sides of the aisle for not being able to get things done. They are just so deeply involved in the politics that they are overlooking the importance of the issues that are before them, or so it seems. Privately, there was great frustration there. Jeff also has some photographs that he has promised not to post on his website or anything, but if he does do so, please remember that I was just, I was listening all the time, even though my eyes might have been.
Justin?
I would add that the proposal from the president also included discussion about removing some of the regulations that the federal government imposes on some of these projects. It didn't really outline what exactly would be removed or how it would change, but I think they're seeking to streamline it and keep the permitting process under 2 years. So potentially that could reduce costs for some local governments as they're working on projects. Notably missing from the president's proposal was shoring up the highway trust fund. So that is something that's still yet to be determined. But
I just like to comment, coming from Europe, the gas tax has been a thing that's covered their infrastructure for many, many years. You know, and people are used to it because they have better infrastructure because of it.
The chamber, as Ty said, has a proposal to increase it by 25 cents, but they also have a proposal that it would go for 5 years and then sunset. Partly not index, yeah, and it can be indexed, which are all things that we need to. It hasn't been raised since 1993.
That's right. And they have, let me turn this into a picture debate on the gas tax itself, but one of their statistics in that is that they've done the calculations that if it's that much of an increase, that would affect, I shouldn't say only because not everybody has the ability to absorb these costs, but it translates to $9 per month extra in fuel expenses. But what they weigh that against is the studies of what is the typical payment per year in realigning your vehicle, impact of potholes, et cetera, which is between $400 and $500. So $9 per month versus $400 and $500 is what they've been trying to make that case for. And they've been lobbying very hard, which is encouraging. So, of course, we'll be working very closely to monitor that and see where that goes into the future.
Yes, Bob?
On the business news this morning, you mentioned 2 years for permits. They were saying on the news that it takes 10 years to get a permit approved and then takes 2 years to do the project. So that would be a big hurdle to eliminate.
That is all my comments, although I did forget to say earlier, if you could all please try to use the microphones on the table. We have something that we're doing new, which is that little, we thank ACOA for the transmission of these meetings on local cable channel, but to the left of that camera, you see a skinny device over there. That is actually live streaming this meeting, which is something new we started doing. So
Thanks, now you tell me.
So you can go to our YouTube site and YouTube channel and see the live stream of meetings. And we've predominantly done it, I think, for TPC and these meetings. And we've done things like the Volkswagen mitigation meeting that was hosted here. We live streamed that as well. So for those purposes, you may be able to hear each other here. So even if it's not so much for the speaker, for anybody who happens to be on YouTube, they're going to have difficulty hearing you if you don't get somewhere close to one of these microphones. Thanks.
Okay. So next is a report of the chair and committee assignments. So a few years ago, under the leadership of Blair Milo, and with a lot of input from the commission and staff, the committees were rearranged. And we are still adjusting as they finally work or don't work. And last month, we asked everyone to think about what committee you wanted to be on. Kai sent out a Google form for your input. We acknowledged your input and have assigned you. So so if you have a problem with this, first let me say that every commissioner and anyone in the public is welcome to attend any committee meeting, or all of them if you have that much time. The really important ones are the TROC committees, TPC, environmental management. They're all important, but TROC is where the fights occur for the money and where they're allocated, and they're approved at the TPC meeting to make sure that it follows the guidelines of the 2040 plan and all the other plans. And then they come here to this commission for our final approval. But I've assigned chairs, vice chairs, and each commissioner is on 2 committees. And so, Bob, yes?
I'm gonna have to decline the chair you appointed me to due to the fact that I'm up for re-election this year, and I'm gonna dedicate myself to my campaign, and so I would like to be removed as chair from that outreach committee.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
We thought you'd be a good cheerleader.
Maybe next year if I get re-elected.
All right, well, we'll work on that. So, if there's any other crucial things, you could either email me or Ty or Mary Thorne, and we'll negotiate. Yes, Ben?
Just 2 very quick sort of logistical things. We'll send this out electronically to all the commissioners that couldn't be here. Obviously, not everybody's here today, but Jeff assigned everyone to a committee. And secondly, I do know there's a few spelling errors. We'll get those corrected as well. I knew there's one, but there's a few more, so do not fret.
So, let's see, next. Oh, yeah. So from the Rail and Freight Committee, we absorbed into the Surface Transportation Committee because it is surface transportation and hopefully will improve the overall attendance and subject matter. So that's one of the adjustments that we made. Next, so thank you all for your service on those committees. I appreciate it. Next is the Finance and Personnel Committee. George Tobel.
Thank you. The Finance and Personnel Committee met this morning at 8 o'clock, and we had started. Finance and Personnel Committee met this morning at 8 o'clock, and we have 2 contracts for approval. Contracts for approval can be seen on pages 5 to 7 for the Kankakee River Basin Commission, and 8 through 15 for the South Shore Clean Cities. The committee voted to recommend approval for these contracts. So moved.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. All right, next is the Environmental Management Policy Committee. Jeff Benson, chair, but soon to be chair is Bill Emerson. Bill, would you like to give a report?
Well, I don't know that I was prepared to make a report. That's called being thrown under the bus. Well, at our meeting we had, I'm trying to think of the individuals that came to talk about the climate change issues. off the top of my head, I can't recall, but it was a good meeting, that we did have.
From the field museum?
From the field.
And when do your meetings occur?
Gosh, you know, off the top of my head.
First Thursday?
First Thursday.
Right here. Excellent.
See you there.
Okay.
Thank you for your report.
Yes, thank you for your report. Next is the TPC, the Technical Planning Committee. Kevin.
When I talked to Mr. Chairman, I asked him to bring a report on the transportation bill. I think that suffices for now. I was prepared to discuss that, but the technical planning committee met on February 13th. There were no actions at this meeting, so you had no resolutions or TIP amendments. You have heard a presentation from staff on draft Greenways and Blueways 2020 plan, and also staff gave an update on the VW settlement, and also an update on the Deep River Dam. A short video was shown on Hobart, the eco-friendly community. Congratulations. And the meeting is streamed live, as most of our meetings are now. Look for them on YouTube. The draft Greenways and Blueways 2020 plan has been released, as I previously alluded to, for a 30-day public review. And an open house for the plan is tonight at NERC from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Ms. Barloga will now present on the draft plan and take questions afterward.
Thank you, Kevin. Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Gabrielle, can you please hit that bank of lights? Yeah, sure, both of them. They don't miss you. Very good. All right. Today, I'm bringing before you the draft plan of the Greenways and Blueways, the document, our 2020 update. And I brought this up to you before, and so I'm not going to belabor too much of the background, but I'm going to give you an overview of what you can expect within the document today. As for a very brief background, what we did here at NERC is that we had two planning efforts that have been poised for an update. The first one being our Ped and Pedal plan, which goes back to the 1970s with the first bikeway plan, and then of course into the Ped and Pedal document. Of course, this was released back in 2010. And the Greenways and Blueways effort was our first comprehensive effort to analyze conservation areas, open space opportunities, and water trail opportunities in Northwest Indiana, and that was released in 2007. Now, at our level at NERC, we always had a concern about what do we do with the word greenways. Greenways is a very large definition. It involves many different activities. You talk about conservation, you talk about passive active recreation, and you even get to the transportation issues as well, dealing with non-motorized trails. So the idea between myself and Kathy Luther at the Environmental Department was to say, let's just bring it all together under one document, and that's what we have done. We are bringing it under three major headings. They include conservation, recreation, and transportation. Easy enough for everyone to remember. And of course, the challenge is, how do we make these work on an integrated level? As for the plan breakdown itself, we expand beyond those goals and objectives that were first talked about in the 2040 Comprehensive Regional Plan and update many of the recommendations that are in this plan. We hope to push forward into the 2050 planning effort, which is soon to commence here at NERC. The chapters are again divided by those three major areas of conservation, recreation, and transportation. We're providing an overview. This is not a how-to manual. We have this thing called the internet. It's a great thing if you haven't figured it out yet. You Google, you go anywhere you want. So a lot of topics are talked about and covered and highlighted in the plan, and we provide the links for you to go for a deeper dive to help your communities get these different projects implemented at your community level. We have a very significant section dealing with the data that we have collected over the years in preparation of the plan. And no plan is complete without a goals, objectives, policies, and in our case, a performance measures area. The performance measures are taken directly from the FHWA with their bicycle and pedestrian guidance. And so we are doing our best to try to incorporate that as well and providing benchmarks in our region for us to really gauge the growth of our network. A brief overview of conservation. The map that you see here identifies 9 potential conservation hotspot corridors that we have identified in this region for significant focus and investment in Northwest Indiana going forward. They include the Grand Calumet area of concern, which is up in the northwest corner of Lake County in the Whiting vicinity, the Indiana Dunes, the Moraine Forest. This is the Valparaiso Moraine area that stretches from central Porter County into northern LaPorte County. The Hoosier Prairie, Oak Ridge Prairie. This is the north central west part of Lake County. Holbert Marsh and Deep River. Founders and Cedar Creek watersheds. These are in the Cedar Lake vicinity. Kingsbury out in LaPorte County. The Kankakee Marsh along the river. And the Little Calumet River corridor, which is a significant opportunity for new development, new conservation, and new enjoyment because it does stretch all the way pretty much throughout the entire northwest Indiana area. Speaking of recreation, of course, right here is where we have talked in detail about our off-road trail network, not only land but a sea. On the land, of course, we have many corridors in our region. You're all familiar with them. Many of you enjoy them and have helped promote them. And in that case, really is a massive success story in northwest Indiana, where we only had about 13 miles on the ground and we're over 160 miles today in as little as 20 years. So this gives you an update of where we're at with those major corridors. Of course, we have our priority trail corridor map. This map has been in existence since the late 90s, pretty much going on 20 years itself, and it has been updated, and as every good plan needs to be revisited and, of course, talked about where the investments need to be spent. Everything on this map in blue are corridors that are either built or funded. We have two major priority corridors that are identified, the Marquette Greenway along Lake Michigan and the American Discovery Trail, a short little ride from Delaware to California, which does come through our region on the south side. And we have, of course, all sorts of different priorities, and those who are in the know, those who have applied, and those who have been able to receive money from NERC over the years, every non-motorized trail project that we receive pretty much goes right up against this priority corridor map, and we have been able to successfully distribute the investment throughout the region because of this map. In my estimation, over $40 million since the map's released in the late 90s. And then we also talk about Blueways. That's, of course, a real big success story from the Greenways and Blueways plan. It was our first attempt at identifying the potential waterways in northwest Indiana, and it has been a rousing success with the development of the Northwest Indiana Paddling Association. There were 500 strong doing their own advocacy work and stewardship in the region. We identify what those 15 corridors are, and here they are again. I always tell people, Blueways are wonderful because they're already there. You just got to get to them, okay? Trails you have to build. These, you just have to figure out a way of getting down to them. The darker blue areas are those waterways that we have had significant investment and work on in the region, including, of course, Lake Michigan and the Kankakee River corridor, the Little Calumet River as well, and some of Deep River and Trail Creek in Michigan City. But we have many other corridors that are of potential development, especially West Creek and Cedar Creek, and Plum and Hart Ditch over in the western side of Lake County. So wonderful opportunities still exist, especially right here in southern and central Porter County with Salt Creek. Every good plan has a good data section. We certainly have one. We did many surveys back in 2015. We did online surveys. We did surveys on the trail, talking to people about their preferences. We talked to people who are in the canoes and kayaks and talked about how often they use our waterways and what are the opportunities for new waterway development. And so we have a significant data site collection, and we also have the culmination of trail counts in our region. And I have pushed this with many of your staff in this region, and it's been a growing success for us. Hammond is the latest one to get on board with it in purchasing trail counters along our networks. This is a pie chart that shows you the distribution of users throughout the northwest Indiana area on a number of our trails. As of today, we have about 15 counters that are out there. They simply track your motion, okay? So we have to make sure we install them at a place where we don't have rabbits or any type of small creatures jacking up our numbers. So thankfully, we're doing well in that regard, and it's been a success in the sense of gauging how many people are using it and how often. And we're more than happy at NERC to get these counters installed for you and to actually do the data counts for you on a regular basis. So if you need more information about that, you know where to find me. Okay, moving on. Transportation, the final major component of the plan. There's only one word that describes a good transportation network in northwest Indiana, and that word is network. Okay? Just like everyone in this room does not access their home directly by an interstate, Everyone in this room is not going to access their home directly by an off-road trail. They are non-motorized superhighways, to be sure, but if your network is not complete within your communities, then you're driving to that trail and you're kind of defeating the whole purpose of it. We need communities that help build a network that get people safely biking and walking throughout their community, getting to your trails, getting to your places of destination, getting children safely to school, either by bike or by walking, helping to instill lifelong healthy habits for them. Again, it has to be a holistic approach. What does this network look like? Of course, planning. You have to have planning. No matter what you do, you have to start out with a good plan. The elements of a good network include sidewalks, basic sidewalks, making sure they're good repair and that they just don't end nowhere. Traffic calming measures, many of them are out there. Your engineers are very familiar. Wayfinding in the sense of signing, making sure people know where to go in your community. Universal design, making sure that everybody, no matter what their ability, has the freedom to move within their communities, within this region, without any impediments. Age, ability, it doesn't matter. Universal design is a growing standard. It builds upon the American with Disabilities Act standards that we're all familiar with ADA, and it's something that we promote heavily within this planning document. Of course, maintenance. We get a lot of money for trails in this region, and then we see some of those trails fall apart. Thankfully, we're not seeing that as often anymore because we continue to push maintenance at the front end of funding these projects, but that's something that we're going to continue to push on as we go forward. Have to have policy development within your communities. These include complete streets policies, safe routes to school policies, again, working with your school corporations and your school districts to make the areas around your particular areas of education safe for children to access, and regional oversight. We need to continue this at NERC. We have had a great amount of success, and I know everyone in this room, and I know the staff, the people in this room, enjoy working on these projects, and it's a continued love affair between us all, so to speak, and it shows. The projects show. And I am very proud to be part of this. I'm very proud to work with everyone in this region on continuing to grow this network and moving forward. We have an integration chapter, bringing it all together. You have these three distinct planning areas. How do you make them work? We talk about a spectrum of uses. You can see this spectrum here, where on either side of it, you might have ideas that don't seem to blend, but they actually do. And they're all within this interrelated package. You're talking about utility corridors, well, they can work out as wildlife habitat corridors. And green infrastructure can be incorporated into trail development, and so on and so forth. We also talked about three major vision projects that we think are right for this region to start working on that do integrate these three major areas. We bring back the Greenways 8. The Greenways 8 is our attempt to make this plan accessible to everybody in this region. It doesn't matter who you are. All these 8 major stakeholder groups, nearly everybody is part of it. Okay? Everybody in this room, for the most part, is a government official. Okay? So you got that. But we're all private property owners at some level as well. And of course, if we're not that, we might be developers, we might be linear corridor owners, on and on and on. They all play a role in the development of all of these initiatives. And we bring it together. We talk about this map here, where green infrastructure is brought together with water trail opportunities that are brought together with our land trail opportunities. And we see how that meshes and how we can make interconnected projects come together and opportunities blossom throughout the 3 counties. There are plenty of great opportunities, as can be seen here with this layered map. And implementation. Any plan that's worth its salt has to have strong implementation policies. Now, this has always been a concern of mine, and really of anybody who's in the urban planning field. How do we make people implement the goals and objectives that we have proposed? We're trying our best here with this matrix. This matrix is spread out throughout the entire implementation section on all 3 major areas. You're seeing one here that's dealing with conservation. And this is an example. We have about 50 pages. We break down every goal, every objective into all of these policy and activity action items. And then we spread them out to all 8 major stakeholder groups. So it doesn't matter who you are, you can find out right now what you can do for that particular objective to be satisfied. Instead of trying to wade through policy after policy and goal after goal and basically having yourself a massive migraine when you're done with it. We understand how policies and how plans can work. And they can work to the detriment of making communities better. We're trying here to make it more accessible, that anybody at any level, doesn't matter what kind of experience you have with major planning initiatives, but anyone can take a proactive and a low-hanging fruit action today, and we're trying to make that clear through all these charts and matrices. So what are the next steps beyond this presentation? The draft Greenways and Blueways 2020 plan is now online at the NERC website in its totality. If you require a hard copy, please see me. We can accommodate you. The public comment period is open until March 2nd. We will have a review of this plan, if everything goes in order, at the March Pet Pedal and Paddle Committee meeting and the Environmental Management Policy Committee meeting, both convening on March 1st. The recommendation will then be put forward by the Technical Planning Committee to the Commission at next month's meeting. Again, there's an asterisk there. This plan was supposed to be approved a year ago, and we had significant comments come forward that delayed it. We take all these comments seriously. And so if comments come forward, we're going to make sure that we accommodate them, and if we have to delay, we'll delay. But we're not going to delay another year, trust me. We're putting this on the fast track now. We have some great recommendations here. We also have another planning process, a 2050 process that's moving up against us, so we want to make sure we get this in order before we move to 2050. And with that said, I really thank you for your attention, and be more than happy to take any questions. Ian, hit the lights, please. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yes, Mary.
Is there any plan, I mean, I know you focus on the trails and blueways, and that's great. Do we have any, Imagination Glen in Portage is an outstanding mountain bike trail, off-road trail. And outside of Imagination Glen, in Lake County, Porter County, there's no other outdoor mountain biking trails like that. I know over in Illinois, they have a great one in Palos. Up in Michigan, they have dozens and dozens of great ones. I think in South Bend is the closest one outside of that. Is there any plan, I know you're obviously a big cyclist, is there any plan for something like that, or do we ever think about that? There was one in Portage, in Thornton that I used all the time, and it was actively used by probably 100 people, and the trails were taken care of, and it was outstanding. And the Thornton Park District went out there in September and completely destroyed it. Tore it up with tractors, probably did more environmental damage during the tear-up phase than any of the mountain bikers ever did using it. And it's heartbreaking to see that. And then you look in Lake and Porter County, and there's really, outside of Imagination Glen, there's no options, and there's plenty of opportunities. It's just never really gone forward. I was wondering if you ever thought about that.
Thank you for the comment. This is an expedited presentation. We talk about mountain bike trails in the plan itself. We have a specific section. We even talk about equestrian trails for that matter. Now, regarding mountain bike, we of course have Big Marsh right across the state line in Illinois.
But that's more BMX than...
And that's becoming very popular in its own right. But Imagination Glen is phenomenal. We also have Bloom County Park in LaPorte County that offers a course. We have to be very careful about planning those proactively because communities need to be brought in at the front line of that. So we're able to at least highlight what we have, but we do say that these are popular endeavors that should be pursued by communities such as your own, where it's available and where it can be done.
I tell you, I mean, I've been going that trail for 10 years, and the fact that it's destroyed is beyond me, because I think that when you don't have the mountain bikers, that's when the bad things happen. And quite frankly, they probably did more environmental damage by doing what they did. But when you look around Lake County, I've talked to people, and I've had ideas for areas, and then the environmentalists are like, oh no, we can't have mountain bikes back there. Why? I just don't get it. And why can't these groups coexist with each other? And when you look at Lake and Porter counties, for as big as the counties are, we really have very few options in that regard. So
you're right.
I just wanted to put it on the radar. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. And again, we also have that same concern with equestrian trails. We have a lot of people that have horse farms and so forth in the south part of our region, and we need more opportunities in that regard too.
And it's always important with the bikes. It's beyond recreation. It's quality of life. It also provides wildlife corridor access for management of invasive species. What we have to do internally before we have more eyes on the ground and maintain and manage these properties. So there's a lot of side benefits beyond just riding a bike or walking these trails. I really look forward to it. I see a lot of positive things coming out of it. And thank you for keeping it shorter than the
Feel your pain.
You can see a longer version of this. Are there any other questions for Mitch?
Thank you.
If not, the next meeting of the Technical Planning Committee will be March 13th 2018 at 9 a.m. here at Nerve City. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is INDOT, Rick Powers, Report District Deputy Commissioner. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name's Rick. It's snowing somewhere in northwest Indiana. That is the first topic, though. I think in the last meeting, someone invited the punch and face we had last week. When I said about 4 days before Christmas, through like I think the week before, we had been working either in Gary Sub or Fort Sub or from the Sub, 170 plus crews. And at that point, until that was Friday, and then we got punched in the face last week. I want to say that this is a point of positive. I guess that in some areas we took up 18 inches of snow, just over just because of the lake and the things that we're accustomed to in Northwest Indiana. But some folks south of us don't see that. In fact, we often joke with our southern districts that they're taking off the pool covers and we're plowing snow. And that's kind of the way it is, and an understanding of that, and what we have to deal with here is that real. So now, of course, with this break in the London fog list, you're going to find potholes, you're going to find street or pavement markings on 65 in our construction areas that are worn. But we'll be focusing on them as much as we can between bouts, because, as you all know, again, we know when there's not done with us yet. And I said that last time I was here. But the good side of this is, I will say that for those of you who watch the mainstream media on, it was Friday, I don't know what day it was, it actually is. It was the people that were driving, if you will, in the interstates. You saw people stayed home. And although the roads were slow, they were passable. And again, we never look to drive pavement up here during that type of event because it's not realistic. When we complete our snow, or complete our salt farms like immediately, and you might see a cloud of white and it will be covered. So, given everything that took place, I would say what probably worked most effectively beyond the people in the plows, which obviously always worked most effectively for us and that hard work that they put in, was we saw, I think, 1 million hits on our Facebook page. Northwest Indiana, our region, our district specifically, has 70+ thousand followers. In fact, Amy Stanley's here, who's a community outreach, works with, actually she's here actually filling in for Matt. And we are hiring a PIO, who's ours left recently, for the first time, I think, right out of school, that has an understanding of social media and those analytics, if you will. What does it mean to reach 1 million people via social media? We've heard of Twitter to death, you know what to do. Facebook and us having the following that we have. When Matt actually came to me and said we had 1 million hits during that storm, that people were looking, using our cameras, our drivers taking pictures of various conditions in various spots, we are going to leverage that right into the construction center. We started doing some Facebook Live type events, and do a live streaming. I actually thought about this when Ty was speaking, that we're going to take advantage of that because we know, and I hope everybody behind it makes the best of this, but I think mainstream media is already turned to the point of trolling social media to find stories. And we know that that's an information resource that still, for those that would say, unfortunately, of my own generation, don't use or leverage as much as those that are coming behind us. That's where they look for information. That's where they look for road conditions, and that's where we are going to focus our attention in getting there. Not only in weather events, but what we're doing with construction, because traveling sin, although there's snow on the ground, sin in the barrels will reappear. In fact, the I-65 expansion project, believe it or not, is resuming this month. So with that said, in fact, there's a quote, we should have announced this earlier, that we're going to close 137th Avenue Bridge over I-65 for resurfacing on the 22nd of February for about 8 weeks. So again, that's coming, and we're in the midst of winter, dealing with potholes, dealing with pavement markings, and all of those things. So we are busy at INDOT. In the Northwest region, we're busy at INDOT statewide, but we are extremely busy right now here in the 4th District. So I don't have a great deal to add, but I am kind of excited again to see that this PIO is coming, to have this analytic side, if you will, of public information that we haven't had, to see where we're reaching, who we are reaching, what kind of information they want to hear. is really something that's exciting to me, to the point that I'm kind of like, just hearing a million hits during that storm kind of blew my mind. I'm not used to that kind of, it sort of overwhelmed me to a degree, but I also realized that just keep looking at Facebook and what we're doing just here. So phenomenal work by everybody on our team and what they've done, and actually the locals too. Again, I was on local streets, and everybody just here in this area is obviously used to snow. And more of a, I would say, a winter that we're accustomed to, we dealt with well last week. So thanks to all of you as well for all you did to help get that message out. And telling people to stay home, frankly, because we saw some of your messages, because it helps. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Rick? Okay. Next, Legislative Committee, Mary Canis.
First of all, I want to thank you for reappointing me to the Legislative Committee, co-chairing with Mayor Tom McDermott. I do appreciate that. I will be going down to Indianapolis Albany Monday to do some lobbying with some of our local legislators and attending third house meetings when they come back after the session. One thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is that we have a new issue that we need to be really concerned of, especially in light of what's happened over the past couple of days, and that's a police pension. You may not be aware of it, but I know the police departments are very aware of it. When a person retires and they pass away, their widow would only, or their partner would only get 20% of what they would have as their pension. We want to take a closer look at that and make sure that we provide for those folks who are fleeing into a place where the rest of the people are fleeing out. So we want to make sure that that's brought to their attention. The other three items that we talked about was infrastructure, we talked about water, we talked about tax appeals. I know some people are very concerned about annexation as well. I've been in touch with AIM, and I know that they're working on annexation as well. So if you have any information, please send it to me. After my visit on Monday, I will send out a written report, and I enjoy hearing from any of you that have any information for me to share with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business? Any announcements? Bob?
I'm giving you advance notice of this meeting coming up April 27, 16 plus, which is all the 19 municipalities in Lake County hold a monthly meeting at the town of Schererville at 9 a.m. on the 27th. Our new chief of police, Dave Coulson, arranged for our new United States attorney to come and speak to us on the 27th. So mark your calendars. Anybody's welcome to come to our meeting. That will take place April 27th, 2018 in the town of Schererville.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I apologize that this has been announced previously. I was in Indianapolis at the last meeting. However, Chesterton was named a top Indiana town by Expedia. They selected one town out of every state. It was Chesterton, Indiana.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
Just very quickly, in that spirit of talking about the importance of social media and reaching folks more broadly, we do have two positions that NERC's hired for that I think close tomorrow. So since we're live streaming and somebody may be watching this on YouTube, we have an opening for a GIS planner and also a public coordination person. So you're welcome to apply. The information is on NERC.org.
Okay. Anything else? Motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor? Thank you.